This is the 864 podcast from Rob of the Green, providing you with some insights, ideas, and actionable takeaways in just 864 seconds, or 1% of your day, with the explicit goal of making you get a little better, even if it's just 1%. Here's your host, Rob O'Donoghue. Let's do this.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the 864 podcast, 864 seconds or thereabouts, with different guests from different backgrounds with some positive, inspiring messages to share. I hope that's the ambition. And in this one, I am talking with Ruth Scott. So Ruth is a radio DJ and has been for about 20 years. She's been on RTE 2FM for the majority of that. And if you're not familiar with Ruth, which probably a very small percentage of you aren't, I would suggest you check out her new show on Radio Nova. She's a great fun personality, lots of good insights and learnings from her career that she shared in this short podcast, so I hope you enjoy it. And my only other ask would be to hang around at the end where you get a little bit more information about this show, how you can subscribe, how you can get in touch, and let me know if it's going down well. So look, I'll leave it there. Enjoy the conversation with Ruth Scott. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the 864 podcast, and beginning to find a rhythm in this one now. Speaking of rhythm and music, potentially there's a link in there somewhere, Ruth. Welcome my guest for this one, Ruth Scott. Ruth, thanks so much for coming on to the call and to the podcast.
Absolutely delighted to talk to you. Thank you for asking me to be involved.
So I want to clear something up, right? So when I reached out and begged you to come onto the show a while back, I think I mentioned something about you coming from Roscommon, and then did you rebuke me? But then in my research, it seems you are from Roscommon. So is there a confusion?
Yeah, what it was, as I recall, you said you're a good Midlands woman. Right. I'm from the Midlands myself. We have a running joke in the house here. I'm from Roscommon, which is in the west and on the edge of Athlone. So right. We just have our own little joke, myself and the husband here at home, about he keeps slagging me saying I'm from the Midlands. It sounds like I'm a Midlands hater. I'm not. Don't get me wrong.
No, don't worry. But I'm glad we cleared that up. So it's Elphin, I think. Is that where you're originally from?
Yeah, Elphin is, honestly, it's a real blink and you miss, a tiny little spot. Very idyllic kind of a childhood, and then moved to the sprawling metropolis of Roscommon when I was about 10. And I'm actually not being sarcastic there, because it did feel in my little tiny 10-year-old brain like I was moving to New York. I got to see my first traffic jam. I got to see more than 3 cars on the road in the day. It really was a thriving little town at the time.
Obviously, with Longford Longford town being quite similar to Roscommon town, I can totally relate to that. Very good. So I did a bit of research, as I like to do, and during this, whatever, 12 minutes or so we have left, I'd like to just kind of tap into your career and your journey. One thing that stood out, right? DCU and comms was your first choice that I read for college. It actually was my first choice or second choice, and I got it.
Stop it. I didn't get it. I was raging I didn't get enough points to do it.
But I dropped out after about 4 months because, like you moving from Elphin to Roscommon town, me moving from Longford to Dublin, I was kind of completely thrown by that whole experience at 17 and just fell down my depth and was, as I now know, kind of an introvert rather than an extrovert, and just had to get out. And I went to college in Galway where all my friends were, and that was the safer bet. But it seemed like it was what you really wanted to do, and maybe, talk to me about what happened when you didn't get it and how you managed to kind of work your way around into that world.
Well, I'd love to say I had a great plan in mind. I didn't. I kind of thought, I like English a lot, I like reading a lot, I like writing a bit. My father was a solicitor. I had a brother-in-law who was a solicitor. They used to say, God, wouldn't it be great to have another solicitor in the family? Maybe she'll work in the legal profession. And then the family used to throw, English books at me and poetry books. And then I was thinking, wordy stuff, maybe journalism. And DCU communications was, I think, probably the only communications course at the time. So it was kind of that or nothing. So I put that as my number one choice. And I still remember saying to my cousin, that's it now. I've applied now for DCU. And she said, and what's your second choice? And I said, I didn't put anything down. And she said, oh, no, you have to put something down. She said, put down what I'm doing. It's a great course. So it was European Studies in UL. And I put that down just as she says I better put something as a second choice. So when I didn't get communications, honestly, I don't remember being hugely upset. I mean, I remember wistfully being disappointed. But I just thought, you know what? I don't know what would have happened if I went there. I don't know what's going to happen when I go to Limerick. So I went to Limerick, and it turned out to be a great step. I can imagine the going from, for instance, like you, Longford to Dublin would be a big leap, similar if I had done Roscommon to Dublin.
Yeah.
So Roscommon to Limerick for me was the perfect leap, and it was the perfect course at the perfect time. And I ended up sort of finding my way into doing radio as a pastime while I was there, because I get asked to speak quite often to media students. And what I find now is they're quite jaded. They have a lot of coursework, and they're not actually interested in really sort of absorbing the mediums that are there. So they're not really interested in watching TV to see what's going on, or, you know, to see what style there is on YouTube, or listen to radio shows, because they have to work at it. I was lucky I got to do it as a pastime. So for me, it was a sort of a happy accident that I didn't get communications.
Very cool. And I did read as well, you were quote unquote quiet in school, maybe shy. Was that something you were battling with, or were you holding back, or did it just develop?
You know, I think as the youngest of 8 kids, there is an element of you don't have to say a lot because somebody else is always going to be talking. So it was never, as I recall, a case when I went away that I was like, okay, now this is your chance to recreate yourself and become a new person. I just was really lucky. I fell in with a really great bunch. And to me, when I look back, that's nearly my favorite time in my life. I got to hang out with really who I think to be a valuable bunch of peers. And I'm so lucky that I'm still very friendly with about 6, a core group of about 6 or 7 of us. You know, we're now at the stage where we're going to each other's weddings. We're, you know, godparents to the kids, those kind of things. So they were a good group to get in with. I probably was a bit quiet as a kid. My mother used to send me off on camps to bring me out of myself. But like I say, with 7 older siblings, I could just sit back and watch the show.
Yeah, and it was just a natural progression, I suppose, then when you started to move into the media world.
Yeah, as soon as I got behind a microphone, I think I went, well, hey, oh, this is interesting. What? Nobody's going to interrupt me. I don't have 7 siblings who are all going to try and, you know, interrupt me and have the crack around me and distract me. So, yeah, just suddenly I think it fell into place.
And it felt right.
Yeah.
I did read as well, DJ for a day, right? That's something that I think you entered. I interviewed a lady from Longford, Sinead Hussey. I don't know if you know Sinead Hussey. She works on RTE. Last year she was on the podcast, and she won DJ for a day, I think, with Shannon Side back in the day. That was something that was a platform for you?
Oh, Lord, it was absolutely enormous. You know, I sometimes joke and say I won my job on an X Factor style show, but you know, you're talking about sending in a cassette tape. I had 2 weeks of experience doing student radio in a caravan in the courtyard in University of Limerick. And it was a great boost to my confidence when I got to the final 5 in the first year. And that's when I kind of thought, maybe I'm actually good at something. Because I never thought I was, you know, I never thought I really shone at anything. And that was my encouragement to keep going. And then I entered it again a few years later and won it. And it was a real, I suppose you call it a shot in the arm. From there, I got offered a job in a Roadwatch, and then RTE came back, and it really was the starting block for me. And so I have huge fond memories and great appreciation for Tony Fenton when he ran that competition.
So that effectively gave you the platform to get into RTE. You spent around about 18 years within RTE, is that right?
18, 20 years, yeah, right. In RTE, yeah.
And during that period, as you grew and developed, you're in the media, in the spotlight a lot. What were the biggest challenges working in there, and I suppose dealing with that, you know, celebrity status almost?
Now, come on, there's not much celebrity status.
Come on now.
Do you know what was great? You got great opportunities. People would ring you out of the blue and say, I've heard you on the radio, you know, are you interested in DJing in this nightclub, or are you interested in coming to, you know, see this band play, or talk at this event, or MC this event? And, you know, you got to see lots of cool bands and do lots of cool things. I suppose what I take from my time there is that I never said no, or really, you know, largely never said no. So people said, oh, do you want to go to, you know, such and such a country and report on such and such a thing? Like the random things I did. And that was great. I was in such a good place. I used to be like, yeah, of course I'll do that. I'd love to. I've never done it before. Thought of it terrifies me. Sure, go on, I'll do it. It'll be great. So yeah, that was a really excellent experience. I was lucky maybe in a sense that Bebo and MySpace were the only 2 social medias, if you want to call them that, around at the time.
Yeah.
So that now I'm much more aware of putting out content on social media, being a little bit aware. You know, when it comes up to referendum times, as a presenter, as a DJ,
Sure.
you're not meant to broadcast your thoughts. You're not meant to, you know, your opinions and preferences in terms of referendum. You're not meant to say it on air. You're not meant to say it on social media. You know, whether it's RTE or whether it's Radio Nova, where I am now, you don't do it. So you do have to have certain sensibilities. I learned a lot of those on the job, and I learned to hustle. When there was stuff I really wanted to do, something that I'm still learning how to do well is how to hustle for extra gigs here and there, things that I think I'd like to do.
So during the career there and even up to now, always learning. Do you feel like it's something new, a new challenge every month, every year?
Oh dear God, every day at this stage. I'll give you a laugh. So I'm filling in. I'm doing a maternity cover on the lunchtime shift in Nova.
Okay.
And part of that involves certain bits of technology that are brand new to me. So literally today I was chuckling, saying to the girls in the office, like, every day I come in, I mess something up, which means I learn something new. But I think working in radio, there's that natural path because there's always new technology. When I started, I was playing cassette tapes in a caravan in, you know, University of Limerick for my first radio show. Now I'm playing music off a hard drive, music that I don't need to ever listen to, see, pre-plan, nothing. It's all done for me because it's all scheduled in advance because of radio markets and, you know, you cater to your particular audience.
Right.
So editing has changed over the years. Social media, you've got to be on top of everything, even the TV side of things. You know, I've gone from being the guest turning up where they take 2 hours to do your hair and makeup to can you run in there and do a quick whatever it is. So it's like everything is quicker, faster, on a tighter budget, whilst covering maybe 6 different areas of social media, TV, different broadcasting at the same time.
Yeah, it's impossible probably to keep up. But does it make it easier now, or has the kind of the magic been taken a little bit out of it? No.
Has the magic been taken out? Okay, I do. First things, is it easier? No, because you've actually an awful lot more to do.
Right.
Has the magic been taken out of it? I suppose because you've an awful lot more to do. Gone are the days when you'd swan in, sit down at your microphone and do your show and swan off again. There is still a certain alchemy when you're sitting in the studio and you're presenting. And I do really enjoy that. There's nothing I like more than being on air. Maybe it's just a self-centered kind of, I love the sound of my own voice, but I love being on air. I took a couple of weeks off there during the summer, and honestly, when I came back, part of me was nervous going, oh my God, will I remember how to do this? And part of me was thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to get behind the microphone again. Yeah,
I guess it's a buzz that you just can't replicate. And is that buzz even higher when you're live as opposed to maybe doing pre-recorded stuff? Do you find much of a difference there?
It's different. How do I explain? When you're live...
We're not live, by the way, now, unfortunately.
Oh, so, yeah. I see. I like this. I like this kind of pre-recorded chat that people can listen back to in a while. There's a certain warmth to it. But then the live sometimes has a real buzz in that you don't know what's going to happen. I spent years out in the Roadcaster, you know, the mobile studio. Yeah. And honestly, sometimes you never knew what was going to happen. People could walk by you on stilts. There could be people in costumes. Somebody could actually climb up on top of the Roadcaster. People used to throw things at me quite a bit in the Roadcaster, sometimes out of affection, other times less so. But, you know, you never know what's going to happen when you're live. And you do develop a very particular set of strong skills when you do live all the time. Yeah. Nothing can faze you.
The ability to kind of dance and pivot very quickly, I'd imagine, when stuff comes at you.
And you can make everything sound really sexy. I did a show one time in a horse box, and it was very sexy.
Very good. We're coming up near the end, believe it or not. The 864 seconds flies by. So I'm going to just do a couple of random ones that maybe probe into your... Well, I don't know what'll come up, so let's just see. Number between 1 and 100.
77.
77, a good number. What is it that excites you most?
Ooh, live radio. Hustling for extra jobs. You know, hustling for MC events. I love that, because if it's something I'm really interested in, I will chase it like a dog with a bone.
So, like, in effect, you're selling yourself there, and selling is a topic I always talk about on some of these episodes. Yeah. Have you learned selling skills? Have you ever formally done that, or is it just knocking?
Oh, God, no. And I admire the people in radio stations and TV stations who sell advertising. I don't know how they do it. My process is, it takes me 2 years, I find. I'll reach out to somebody when I've realised there's something I want to do. from reaching out to them, maybe on LinkedIn, then you might meet for a tentative coffee. Then, I mean, my dating life has gone much faster than my work life because, you know, it takes me 2 years from meeting them to generally them saying, okay, well, will you do that gig for me? Right. And what I find is once you do one for them, they'll generally say, oh, great, will you come back and do the next one? And the next thing is you're kind of their go-to. And I get a kick out of that as well. But 2 years for me, I'm sure if I had some proper sales skills, I'd do it a lot more efficiently.
Planting the seed takes a bit of time for it to grow, I guess. So, all right, one more random one before we wrap up, Ruth. Go for it.
17.
How do you push yourself? How do you keep yourself going?
I'm not great for setting goals, so
that's a whole other podcast that I have. You don't set goals.
No, not really. I sort of just think of one thing and I go like, I want to do that. I mean, you could call that a mini goal.
It could be a big goal either. It depends how long term it is, you know.
Yeah, do you know what? Maybe it is that I just don't push myself. Maybe I just go along in my comfort zone. That doesn't feel right though, because I do feel like I push myself. Pushing myself for me means going out and meeting a person face to face. It will be a sidebar of radio for me and certainly for people I know. Some people I know that they would also, aside from being chatty and gregarious and, you know, will do anything, zany radio, they also maybe the kind of person that thrives on their own, just by themselves. So sometimes to push myself, I have to just get out and meet people. I know it seems weird, right? I would literally talk to a wall. Yeah. But in order to get out of the house, to talk to that wall, sometimes I need to give myself a proverbial kick in the posterior.
All right. So self-kicking is a way of pushing yourself. Okay.
In a compassionate way. Compassion is something I've really been conscious of in the last couple of years. Okay. And that has a strong bearing in everything I do, or at least I try to have it.
Yeah. No, very good. And maybe there's a tie between how you push yourself and the selling part. Maybe there's a connection there that you can take away and ponder for the rest of the afternoon, perhaps. Well, Ruth, look, it was beautiful to chat to you. Great to meet you virtually, and great to connect on our kind of homeland territory, and obviously hear all about your journey in the 864 seconds or so. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. A delight to talk to you, and continued success with the podcast and everything else you're doing. And up Longford, woo!
Longford a boo. All right, Ruth, have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey folks, so that was the 864 seconds or thereabouts, and I hope you enjoyed it. Was there one key takeaway that stood out? Was it good? Was it bad? I would love to hear about it. So in the few seconds that remain, and to be fair, I've probably gone over, but I have a few asks. Please do subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or iTunes so that you never miss another show. You've heard that one before. I would love if you leave a rating and or a review. All of these help get the show further up the rankings, which means more people see the podcast and then hopefully hear it. It means a lot to me. Follow me on Rob of the Green or on Spreaker.com/Rob of the Green. That's where all the podcasts are hosted, but on the Rob of the Green site you can get to everything. The 1% Better podcast, this one, the 1 minute Monday videos, and you can also connect in with me through the website. There's a feedback page, or on any of the socials. Just look for @Rob of the Green or Rob of the Green. I think you get the picture. Finally, give yourselves a round of applause because you've all been so lovely, and thanks for listening. Have a great day and good luck.